Some people have said things along the lines of, and this is, I'm just saying this to get your mind going on the different topics, but when it came to interviewing, it was an easy, process. You felt comfortable. Or when it came to having the job that you have now, you feel really comfortable in that environment. Having that experience outside of class, it wasn't such a hard transition once you got into the business world. Or, just experiencing the way people communicate in other cultures was a big eye-opener to them. Having job offers that you wouldn't have had otherwise, getting jobs you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Let's see. Just the ability to effectively communicate. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff. But it's... Or, just having a different experience than just the things you're learning in class. You're actually applying them now. Or you're getting experience outside of school. It's actually work related and stuff like that. I don't know.
It's hard because
I
could honestly say any of those things.
Yeah. And so you can. It doesn't have to be just one thing. You can list a couple of things. The funny thing is, it's a 3 to 5 minute film, so we're only going to take a short clip of some things you say. So.
The more I say, the more you have to work with, right?
Yeah, it's so true. So,
okay.
Yeah, what are some of the things that you appreciate most from your time in Japan? Or what do you find the most useful now? I don't know. Maybe that's easier to answer.
No, it's not. But I got some thoughts, so we'll give this a stab.
Okay.
As I reflect back over my time as an intern in Japan, there's a lot of things that I really value, that I really appreciate, that I'm glad that I had the opportunity to experience and to do. I first went to Japan as a missionary for the LES Church and learned to really appreciate their culture and their language, which kind of directed me in, when I got back and resumed school, to kind of change my emphasis in school. I focused in on Japanese and really enjoyed my time doing that. Actually, doing an internship made it so that I could view Japan in a whole new light, a very different perspective than I got as a missionary. I was ingrained in their work culture. I was ingrained in their communities. I was able to experience what it's like to actually live in Japan, what these day-to-day events for these people really are like, the stresses that they might feel, or some of the things that bring them greater satisfaction. I really enjoyed that perspective. And then coming back to America after really enjoying those things, I was able to excel in my schoolwork, in my Japanese studies. It brought in a whole new element, a whole new dimension to that skill that I was developing, that I really appreciated. And as I've continued on into the workplace, just that exposure to what it is like to work in a corporate environment was great. I really enjoyed the opportunity to do that and to kind of prime myself for what I was going to be doing over the rest of my career after I left college.
That was wonderful. I think they'll really appreciate hearing things like from your mission experience, and that's something I was going to ask you in one of the next questions. Being a missionary, learning Japan, and then having the internship, did it professionalize your language? Did it? What sort of, what was the difference there? You just kind of mentioned it, but we'd like to hear that again.
Okay.
Just why it was meaningful to you to have the two.
Yeah.
Because I think they're both important, definitely. So yeah.
For sure. As a missionary, I had the opportunity to actually serve. I had 6 Native companions, which in my mission was unusually rare. In my mission, you were actually pretty lucky if you got 1 Native companion. So I was fortunate to leave the mission filled with pretty, I don't know if I'd necessarily say advanced, but I was very comfortable in the Japanese language and had a good deal of exposure to what it's like to live in Japanese. And all but one of my companions didn't speak English, and so I had a great opportunity to really dive into living like a Japanese person. Came back, did school for several semesters before I was able to have the opportunity to do an internship. But going back to Japan and working there and being immersed in a very different side of Japan. I lived in a dormitory that provided great opportunity to really see what it's like to live as a Japanese worker in a company, ate out of their cafeterias. And so it was a very strict Japanese diet, and walking away from that experience, I came home with a list of well over 1,000 new words that I had not been exposed to in my missionary service, that I was exposed to in the more day-to-day events of watching the news and reading newspapers and working, learning a new industry. So it was great in that aspect of really opening up my eyes and opening up doors to where I wouldn't have been able to go through schooling or through my missionary service. It was a whole different aspect inside to Japan that I'd not had in my preceding 3 or so years of Japanese immersion.
Perfect. And what do you do now at Property Solutions that kind of applies some of those things you learned either as a humanities major or just from your internship? Or what are some things you do now in your career that you can apply those things? Okay.
Currently, my role at Property Solutions is I'm the director of project management, and this is a whole new department. It's something that we've not done as a company before. Having this opportunity to kind of forge new communication channels and new processes is something that I can tie back to my learning experiences as an intern, of really learning and stepping back and analyzing the landscape that's in front of me, and trying to figure out the best way to efficiently work within that landscape. As an intern, you're given the opportunity to step up to a desk and look around and be inserted into a department that you've not been a part of before. And kind of navigating your way through that, learning your responsibilities, figuring out if there's better ways to do those things. I've been able to draw on those skill sets, and having gone through that experience as I look at a new landscape in front of me here, as we've got a new direction that we can go, and figuring out, okay, well, how do we do this? How are we going to successfully implement this? How are we going to more efficiently accomplish what we need to do? We know what we need to do, so what's the most efficient way to do that? And that's something that I first got some exposure to doing as an intern.
Awesome. And did your employer at all, did the whole having the internship on your resume, did that spark interest in him?
I never asked, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think that employers, do you think that employers look in particular for internships in today's kind of world? When going through a hiring process?
I'm involved in hiring here. I know we don't look for internships.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt, but...
Okay.
But it's not necessarily something that we look for. But there might be... I'm sure there's industries that they would.
Okay. No, I just want an honest answer, so that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my next questions. If you were a part of the hiring process, and what might set a student apart if they did have an internship from the hiring standpoint. Do you think it would set a student apart if you saw that they had an internship?
Just trying to look back over people that I know did internships.
Uh-huh.
How did that stand out to me as I looked over their resumes? I would say, as somebody that's involved in the hiring process for our company, that seeing an internship, it does show value. It shows that they've had real life experience, especially if they don't have much experience to draw on beyond their schooling. That does show that they are able to go out and they've got initiative first and foremost. They saw something they wanted and went after it. They were accepted to it. They completed it. Knowing my own experience as an intern, I know that it's got a lot of value, and really showing them what real life is like in a work environment. It's kind of like training wheels in getting into the workforce and getting comfortable in that environment. If they've already gone through that, especially in the entry-level positions that I've done hiring for, it does give them a good leg up in the realm that we know that they've already been exposed to it and that they can succeed.
Awesome. Let's see. I think you've answered most of our questions. Are there any last things that you want to share with the PLC that are important to you about